The PMP exam poses challenges to understand not just predictive project management, but also agile and hybrid project management. A key lesson that we learned from our students who have passed the exam was that it was incredibly useful to have our training broken out into agile, predictive, and hybrid components. And they did report that the hybrid component was extremely helpful in helping them get their mindset aligned and to be able to switch between agile, hybrid, and predictive topics on the exam. Let's go into one of our training programs to see what exactly our students were talking about.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world, whether you're joining us live or whether you're watching after the fact. Thank you very much for joining. We're going to be presenting to you today what we call the Pmp Exam Immersion series. And Roy and I have done this for going to a little over a year with this particular syllabus. In fact, a lot of our students that went through the first training that we had last year, they've long forgotten they got certified. So we know that the system actually works. Right, Roy? It
Absolutely.
works. So we're going to start today going straight into this topic of the PMP exam. And we call it the PMP Exam Immersion. And we call it an immersion because we take you deep into what we know as the PMP exam content outline. We're going to take a look at the outline really quick. The outline is the blueprint on which the PMP exam is based. And it's broken down into three pieces. So if we go to the table of contents, you can see we have the introduction and then we have the outline. So going to the outline here, you can see we have the exam broken down into the people domain, the process domain, and the business domain. And these are the three pieces that we're going to be covering over the next 9 hours. It sounds scary. It's not going to be that bad. We're going to make it as interesting as possible, aren't we, Roy?
Absolutely, Phil.
So these are the domains. People is 42% of the exam, process is 50% of the exam, and business is 8%. And what you need to remember is that 50% of the exam is going to be agile and hybrid, and the other 50% is going to be predictive. Now, when I think about these domains, I immediately think about a lot of what we've been learning over the past number of weeks. Some of us who are watching newly, you've gone to other courses and you've been trained in project management from a predictive sense or from an agile sense. Some of you have done Scrum training. But when I look at this, I look at a high-level view of the outline tasks, because each of these domains has a set of tasks. And in the tasks, there are many different things you do. But in my mind, when I look at it, I see it has been broken down into roughly 8 areas. So one of the areas that I look at, the first thing, I think about the vision or the business case. So in the world of agile, it works a little bit differently from the world of predictive. The world of predictive, we usually have a business case and we say, this is what we're thinking about. And then we test it and see if it makes sense. We do a feasibility study and then move forward. In the world of agile, how does that work, Roy, when you're about to start an initiative? Does it start off in a similar fashion?
Well, yeah, actually, it really does. I mean, not necessarily a formal project charter and things like that. It's more like problem statements. You know, what's the problem we're trying to solve? What are we trying to do for our customers? Start with the problem in mind rather than what we're building. It's more the why than the what.
The problem. Gotcha. So in the world of predictive, it's similar to the world of agile in that we know we need to do something. And like Roy said, there's a formal charter for it. And then we move into planning. And in the world of agile, we have iterative planning. Planning does happen. In the world of predictive, we talk about executing. In the world of agile, we may not call it executing, but this is where the team works. This is where leadership happens. This is where it's very people focused. That's step 4. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. Step 5, we call it an inspection. Actually, the formal word for it is monitoring and controlling in the world of predictive. In the world of Scrum and Agile, Roy, what would we call monitoring and controlling and checking and things like that?
It's kind of the inspect and adapt mechanism, right? It's the feedback loop. That's the control and monitor portion.
Gotcha. Feedback loops, inspect, adapt. And then we have the replan. We replan quite a lot. We talk about baselines in the world of PMI. We talk about replanning and so on. And are there any formal terms for that, Roy, in the world of Agile for replanning and stuff?
Sprint review to sprint plan. It's constant. I wouldn't say there's necessarily not a formal word, progressive elaboration. There's a whole bunch of different concepts that kind of take this into account.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we have an Agile word here, demo, deliver, sprint review, MVP, PSI, deliverable. Now we're throwing out acronyms. Go read those acronyms if you don't know them. I told you it was going to be a very quick-paced class. And then we have, in my mind, this is not the world of the PMI, but Roy has been influencing me so much that I end up thinking about a retrospective as the ending, the demo and the delivery. I think about that as rolling it up into monitoring and controlling and close project or phase, but that retrospective is so important at the end.
Critical, absolutely critical.
Yeah. So Roy, looking at this continuum of life cycles, is it possible to be somewhere on a continuum, maybe towards the top right or the bottom left, but not necessarily a full-blown agile or full-blown predictive?
Absolutely. I mean, the idea is that you move in and out fluently. We're really looking at the best approach for the context that you're in, the problem you're trying to solve. It's not either or. It's choosing the right direction for your particular situation. I get asked all the time, is Agile viable for every single kind of project? Well, yeah, it is actually. You can do Agile on anything. The question is, do you need to? That's really what we're talking about here. Sometimes Agile is truly the better choice. And other times you can do waterfall and it's just fine. So it's kind of that, move up and down that path based on the context, what you feel is the appropriate process.
Gotcha. Thank you, Roy. So to that end, those of you taking the Pmp exam, you want to be very familiar with page 19 in the Agile Practice Guide, because you could get questions regarding what do you do if you have a low degree of change and a low frequency of delivery. Well, you can see predictive will be the option. What do you do if you've got a high frequency of delivery, but a low degree of change? That will be incremental. What do you do if you've got a high degree of change, high frequency of delivery? Agile. What do you do if you've got low frequency of delivery? Because iterative just happens once. That's the delivery, right? Single delivery, but the degree of change, you change until correct. So you got to know your page 19. And speaking about which one to choose, Roy, we got this image of the Stacy complexity model. Yep. What exactly is this?
Otherwise known as the life cycle continuum. It's the same basic thing. What this is really trying to show you is where the approaches are best suited. The approaches down the area in the bottom where there's a high level of agreement, a high level of certainty. Well, predictive, just think about the name, predictive, right? In order to be predictive, you need to have a high degree of certainty. In order to be flexible, you're probably going to be in more of the complex or the anarchy space where there's less certainty. So all this is really showing is there are different domains, different approaches are may be more or less appropriate in each of these domains.
Gotcha, Roy. Again, PMI has cloaked this in the Agile Practice Guide, as Roy kind of alluded to. So you better know all those pages where you have the continuum, the matrix, page 14, page 19, know all of that. And to that end, we go into talking about hybrid models. As Roy said, it's not necessary to use a single approach on an entire project. We could be a blend, right? And that's what PMI is saying. In the Agile Practice Guide, we could be a combination of predictive, iterative, incremental, and/or agile approaches. And we call that a hybrid approach. And the PMI gives you some ideas of models. They give you the blue one up here, agile development followed by a predictive rollout. We have an agile development up front, and we have a predictive rollout after. Or we have, I call this the agile predictive sub. It's like, it reminds me of a sub, a sandwich, and you've got agile at the top and the bottom bun is predictive. And it's called a combined agile and predictive approach. And then on the next pages, we've got the agile, predictive, a largely agile approach with a predictive component. And I believe this might be closer to page 27 or 28. And then we also have the largely predictive rollout with agile components. So the PMI is huge, huge. We really want you to take this away from today's discussion. Honestly, if you have not read this practice guide, and if you haven't gone through the pages that we mentioned that have these two images on, which I believe is page 28. Let's go there and take a quick look so I can give you the exact page. Pages 27 and 28. Yep, in the Agile Practice Guide. If you have not taken a look at that, please do that, because this will help you better understand what happens.
And my friends, something else that will better help you understand what happens is being immersed into the world of project management by two capable, awesome instructors as you are watching, your friend Phil and Roy. Now, the reason why we have teamed up to take on the exam content like this is because specialism is important. When you are learning from a source that has been there, done that in a very organic fashion, you're just going to come out on top. Roy has been there, done that in the world of Agile, the world of hybrid. He's very well versed in Agile, very well versed in the tiny little specialisms, the frameworks that we find used in Agile, like Scrum. He's a CSP in the world of Scrum, certified Scrum professional. Also in the area of Kanban, very, very much into that world. And all the other tiny little pieces that you see under the Agile umbrella, he's got great mastery of the concepts and the sub-concepts in each of these, the sub-practices used, such as estimating and sprint planning and demos and stuff. These are things Roy has done over and over again in the real world. So you're learning from the organic source. You're not learning from someone who read it in a book, but hasn't practiced, you see. And also when it comes to combining methods across Agile and predictive, Roy has been there, done that. And in my world, I have been into predictive very, very heavily, used all of the concepts that I teach about. The concept of earned value, which most trainers have not used in the real world, I have used and written books on. The concepts such as scheduling, using either software or other methods, all of these tiny little intricacies in procurements and risk management, using the tools of the trade. I have been into that very deep across firms. So as Roy and I come to you to present to you the syllabus for the PMP exam, not only are you getting the syllabus, you're also getting our view of the real world and how these things can be used. And we allow students to ask questions whenever they feel stuck or they don't understand. We allow them to ask questions. And guess what that does? It helps them take away a piece of the real world that both of us have experienced to apply to their world after they get certified. And you know what? This provides us a networking opportunity for them and for us. And beyond the exam, we remain mentors, unspoken, sometimes spoken. Some of them come back for mentoring with us. But the idea is this: if you're getting ready for this exam, you should learn from the best. This is the course you need to be on, because very few PMP courses have two instructors capable in both worlds, delivering to you double value. I call it double value. So if you are looking at getting certified, you need to go on down to our website, Project Management Masterclass.com, because it is indeed a masterclass across hybrid, agile, predictive. And now what I'm going to show you next is how we cover the content. One piece of the content is predictive. Another piece is agile. And the last piece, which is what you're watching with me right now, is the hybridized combination, where Roy and I tag team on the 35 tasks and deliver this to you in a very real world and organic fashion. So let's jump into the next section of this training.
Because now that we've been through that map of understanding of how it works in the world of reality, like Roy said, if you start resolving conflict before you have the team, heaven help you, you got a bigger problem. And it's true, you do. And that's why we wanted to show you in reality how it works first. Now you know how it works in reality. We can now begin to talk about what exactly each one is. So we will first talk about managed conflict, because you folks now have a great understanding of how it should sequentially go to a large degree. All right. So we're going to jump into our very first one, managed conflict. The really unique thing about this training that we are delivering is never before have you ever had two really phenomenal, to use a word, instructors that can break down each world for you, right? So Roy is a professional in the world of Agile in his own right. He's trained everyone from, I don't know, Roy from the U.S. Air Force and lots of government, lots of banks, right? Roy, give us a little bit of background so those who are watching after the fact know a little bit about it.
Marketing teams, pharmaceutical organizations that are doing clinical trials, lots of finance work, insurance, people who build elevators, people who build other physical products, people that are building warehouses and rolling out manufacturing organizations, things like that. So it's all over the map. You name an organization, I've probably been pretty close to them.
Thank you, Roy. And likewise, I've trained so many firms across the world, government, private, DOD, NASA, FBI, you name it, all the way down to companies such as gaming companies I've worked in. So diverse industry. So it's very unique and you folks are in great hands. But let's start off with the people domain. And the very first one, Roy, that we have here is manage conflict. And I'm curious, you viewers, how do you manage conflict? Because PMI tells you the first thing you want to know is the stage. You need to be able to interpret the source and stage of the conflict, then analyze the context of the conflict before you evaluate, recommend, and reconcile the appropriate conflict resolution solution. But first of all, we're gonna talk to Roy and understand, first in the world of Agile, how do we think about this, Roy?
Yeah, so the first thing to remember about conflict is conflict isn't necessarily bad. Conflict is supposed to be a good thing. That's diversity of ideas, and that's extremely powerful. And that's the approach that we want to take with this. Now, there's also obviously some very unhealthy conflict when you're arguing or when you're, trying to win at all costs, that kinds of thing. There's actually five levels, 5 stages of conflict. The worst being World War, and that's not an actual war. It's when two people are really just content to just destroy each other. That level of content, that's not healthy. That's really not healthy. So the way that we deal with this in an Agile environment is it's all about the people, right? It starts with the people. Your Scrum Master is the person that is your primary facilitator. They're the one that can help resolve that conflict. Now, hopefully, when you're at the first level of conflict where you're just having a disagreement, people can work that out themselves. You may not necessarily need a Scrum Master in that space. But once it starts escalating and starts getting beyond that point, it starts becoming less and less healthy, then maybe you need a second party or third party rather to help you out and resolve that conflict. Now, Scrum Master is the primary person that can help with this. They are supposed to be experts in the soft skills. They're the ones that are able to disconnect from the problem, or should be able to disconnect from the problem, and work with the two individuals to get them past all of it. So where a Scrum Master starts is, let's go back to emotional intelligence. It's very important. All of these concepts that we're going to talk about in managing conflict and any kind of people-related things, it's about emotional intelligence. Be aware of yourself first and understand how you can influence these discussions. That's very, very important in all of the people domain. Scrum Master is supposed to be able to disconnect, separate from the problem, and be able to deal with the individuals themselves and deal with the problem. Healthy conflict is useful. Diversity of ideas is what we want to encourage. But we also want to encourage people to de-escalate. And that's really the issue. Once you're escalating into those higher levels of disagreement or higher levels of conflict, I really should say, now we need to find ways of de-escalating. And often that means separating two people and doing shuttle diplomacy. You know, go to one person, talk to them individually, bring back, go to the other person. It's the same thing that diplomats do, right? We use a lot of those same concepts, right? Go to one person or one group, talk to them, go to the other group, talk to them, and then bring them together to find commonality. These are all the things that we want your Scrum Master to be really good at. Okay, back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Roy. That's a very wholesome discussion about how it works. And let's go into the world of the Pmbok Guide. In the world of the Pmbok Guide, we have a resource management plan, and the resource management plan guides the team on how they're going to resolve conflict to some degree. But we also have the team charter as well. And as you can see on the screen, we've got two numbers. I want to talk about these numbers because you're going to be seeing them quite a lot. So we've got a number for each of these documents, which shows you where the document is an output of. If the document is an input to what we're discussing, we have the I. So for example, the resource management plan is an output of 9.1, but in the aspect of manage team, we could use that. 9.5 is manage team. We could use it as an input. And then the team charter comes from 9.1, and this has ground rules, do's and don'ts, good behaviors, bad behaviors discussed, and how to resolve conflict as well to a large degree. And then again, we put that in as an input to manage team. So in the world of the Pmbok Guide, manage team is where a lot of this happens. And in manage team, the PMI go further, page 349, to define these formal approaches to resolving conflict. You could withdraw or avoid. The key word is retreat or postpone. A lot of people on the freeway, if only they used withdraw or avoid, they would still be alive. A lot of people, they decide to use other means. Not good. The next one is smooth or accommodate. Smooth or accommodate, the key word here is concede. So when you're smoothing, you're conceding, you're saying, all right, I'm just going to give up my own position to maintain harmony and relationships. The next one, compromise or reconcile. You can distinguish this from smooth or accommodate because it talks about a temporal or partial resolve of the conflict. In other words, you're putting a Band-Aid. It's like putting a Band-Aid on the conflict, but it's not conceding. You see the difference? The key word in smooth or accommodate is concede. The key word here in compromise or reconcile is temporally. You got to know that for your exam. Then we have force or direct, which is typically looked at as being negative, but it's not necessarily negative all the time. This is where one's viewpoint is pushed, usually ends up in a win-lose solution, but it's enforced through, what's the word? Power position. So it's enforced through a power position to resolve, watch this one, an emergency. So two things there, power and emergency. Last but not least, we've got collaborate or problem solve. Collaborate or problem solve. This is where you and whoever else is in conflict.
This is where you should solve the problem. You got a need. How do you satisfy it? You got a need to pass the exam based on this, right? And to boot, we've got our PDF, Project Management Essentials, and we encourage the Scrum Guide. You got all this literature, all these books. Oh, and one more thing, when you come aboard the program, guess what you get? You get the Project Management Audio Digest, 20 hours of instruction. You get a potpourri of stuff. You get so much stuff that it's unbelievable. A lot of people ask, my goodness, do I get all of this for just that price? And the answer is yes. So my question to you is, what are you waiting for? In order to sign up for this course, we encourage you to go on down to the website, projectmanagementmasterclass.com. And when you get to Project Management Masterclass, just look for the options and sign up for the very next class we've got. You can see we got a number of classes, and this particular class that I'm showing you, we've got this in April, but all through the year we have classes. So just look for whenever the next class is and join the class. That is how you solve problems. Talking about problem solve, you're getting ready for the exam, you need engagement, you need help, you need a curriculum. Now, speaking of curriculum, one of the great things you get from this curriculum, I'll show you right here, is the online learning management system. A lot of folks struggle as they prepare because they don't have a routine and a regimen. But if you come aboard our system for 3 whole months, 90 days, you will be able to comb through various modules within our learning management system, as you can see here. Let's back up to the dashboard and let me show you around very quickly. So here's the intro to the dashboard, and those are intros from some of our instructors that are on the course. If you hit modules, it shows you the modules that are available in this program. Project Management Essentials, which covers all of the Pmbok guide. And then we begin to get into people, process, business. You can see it's very intricately broken out. There's so much content here. Agile quizzes, knowledge area quizzes, a hybrid flavor of the Pmp exam, all sorts of great stuff. It's completely loaded. So loaded that if I started showing this to you, I'll probably take another hour, but we don't want to take another hour. What I want you to do is go on down to the website, projectmanagementmasterclass.com, and sign up. Now, all throughout the training, as we cover chapter by chapter, situation by situation, we're also giving you questions to test you. Some are very straightforward and some are rather difficult, and some are in the middle of the road. And we quiz you. We ask you open-ended questions. We jog your memory. We engage you. This is by no means one of those overdone PowerPoint presentations where all you see is PowerPoints. No, this is a very engaging program. Now, this program is 4 weeks. I want to go over how the program is going to be run really quickly, just to give you an idea of the curriculum that we're going by. So this curriculum that we're going by, let me click on it. It's a project management masterclass right there. And going into the program, if we scroll down, you can see week 1, we're covering the foundations of predictive and agile. Week 2, we're going a little bit deeper into the world of agile. And week 3, we begin covering the domains, people, process in week 4, along with business. So going through the program over 4 weeks, you're going to cover the 10 knowledge areas, the process groups. You're going to be covering agile, the different flavors within it, Scrum, practices in agile. And then when we get to week 3, this is where we take this head on. All of the tasks that your exam is going to be based on. Your exam is going to be based on this outline: domain 1, domain 2, domain 3. And some of the individual practices and topics we talk about in Agile are also mentioned down here. So you can see we cover step by step all of the tenets of Agile, the manifesto, the values, the principles, and everything you need to ace your exam. So what are you waiting for? You know what to do. The website, projectmanagementmasterclass.com. Roy and I look forward to seeing you. We wish you all the very best as you prepare for your exam. Take care. Bye for now.